In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use a select tag in an HTML form and process it using PHP. Now, a select tag is essentially a drop-down list of different choices we might make. And I have it here. So I've got administrator, faculty, or staff for the position that someone held. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to put my name in again, Steve, and I'll leave it at staff, and I click the Submit Information. It says you are Steve, and your position at the college is staff. If I go back and make a different selection to be administrator, name, Steve, administrator has been changed. So again, PHP will process the web page differently depending on the selections that a user makes. Let's go ahead and look at the code. So here we are in the form. I've got three files again. I've got an HTML file, a cascading style sheet file, .css, and a PHP file. I've changed the title here, and I've changed the reference to the CSS file to be basic2 compared to what it was when we last did the form, when we just had the name there. So let's go on. We have to remember that when you're modifying a file that was already working and you're going to call a different program, you have to remember to change the value on the action tag to the new program name, in this case using select.php. So we have our first name field like we had before. I've added to that a position field. That's the position label. This is the position field. Notice that the keyword here is no longer input, but select. That's the tag name. It behaves a little bit differently. Here, we just say the word select, we give it a name, in this case, position, and we give it a size. In this case, I gave it a size of 1. Now what that really means is just one choice is going to appear at a time. You noticed on the form when I was running it, let's go back real quick, that there's just one choice showing in the box. If I changed it to size 2 or 3, it would show more choices. Back to the code. Now, the way a select list works is you specify options, and you notice that we had 3 options in the list: administrator, faculty, and staff. This text that appears between the beginning and ending of the option tag, here's the beginning, the ending with the /, is what the user sees. Now what we're going to process, however, is specified in the value attribute of each option. Now in this case, I made the value of that option exactly the same as what the user sees, but I didn't have to. I could have used a shortcode. I could have gone A for administrator, F for faculty, and S for staff, and process it that way if that's what made sense. In this case, we'll just leave it the same. Down below, we have the same submit button that we used before. Let's look at the PHP code. You see here I've changed the heading to college report instead of just success. And in addition to getting the first name field with the $post, $_post really, I'm also getting the position field. That was the name of the select list. And I'm pulling it off into a PHP variable. There are some PHP installations where this would happen automatically if you use the same name as an HTML field, but it's never good to rely on that. I don't have to name this the same as the HTML field, but in this case I did. Now let's look at our print statement again. I'm beginning a paragraph here in the first print statement, but if we go down, I'm ending it in the second print statement. That's fine. Each print statement just sends information out to the browser. That information is text and it's HTML tags. You may remember that my name and the position appeared in blue when I ran this. Let's go take a quick look again. Steve is an administrator. Click the button. Steve is in blue, and the administrator is in blue. To get that to happen, I specified a class in my styles called TextBlue, and I attached it to a span tag. Let's look at the span. We've seen span before. There's the span, there's the end of the span. So what I have in between there is going to be affected by any style I put on the span. But instead of putting the style on there directly, I decided to define what's called a class. And I named that class TextBlue. Now that isn't a random name, at least here in this file. I had to specify that as a style. Let's go back and look at the style file. This is basic 2. And in addition to giving my select list a font size of 16 pixels, I also had dot text blue, and I define that as color is blue. When you put the dot there, that says that this is going to be a class. It's not going to be an ID, or it's not going to be a tag, or something else that we might do in styles. So the dot indicates class, and you can see how that affects it. Let's go back to the code. And so we're printing this out. Also notice that I put a single quotes around text blue here to make it a little bit easier, since I'm using double quotes to limit the text that's within my print statement, and I don't want it to get confused. Later on, I'll talk about another way to do that. But I've also put a span with the class text blue in front of the position area as well, so you can see how that was affected. Let's go ahead and run this one more time. I'm going to be Bob again. And Bob is going to be a faculty member. Hit the submit, Bob, and your position at the college is faculty. That concludes our lesson on using the select statement.